Alright, so today I want to make a video on another channel that people need to subscribe to. And this is a specifically Canadian channel, so for anyone outside Canada, it's kind of doesn't really apply to you. But we do have the Canadian election coming up in about 5 to 6 weeks. I believe just over 5 weeks it'll be, because it's on the 21st. But in Canada, politics is a very divisive issue, and same as the U.S. pretty much. It's just not quite to the same extent. Everything the U.S. does is on a big platform and whatnot. So in Canada, it's pretty much the same, but not quite to the same extent, given we don't have nearly as many people. But things are very crazy. You have Trudeau, who's probably one of the most hated candidates in politics out there, or in the history of Canadian politics, at least I can remember. Harper wasn't liked, but Harper wasn't liked mostly because of people just blindly not liking him because he was a conservative. Trudeau, there was a lot of former Trudeau voters former people on the left, maybe they're NDP, maybe they're Liberal voters, maybe they're moderates, that really, really do not like Trudeau. And the thing that really baffles me is people's refusal to vote conservative, at least for those people, because the conservatives, like I've said before, and I'll keep saying, they're the furthest to the left that the conservatives have ever been, but yet you talk to these people and they think that they're the same old conservatives, which just boggles my mind, because the conservatives are to the left of the liberals as recently as 10, 15 years ago, to the left on the liberals on a lot of issues. And those are ones that people, really care about. Like, they're not against abortion. They're pro LGBTQ in almost every way possible, other than like the ram it down your throat, wax my balls. Basically, that's the only thing they're against when it comes to the LGBT agenda. They're not really pro-war from what I can tell. The one problem with the conservatives is they don't really go on a limb on a lot of their policy positions. They kind of beat around the bush. But the things that we can tell, they're to the left. Those are just three issues off the top of my head that I know are important to people, that they're to the left of where the liberals were as recently as, the '06 election, for example. But yet people still refuse to acknowledge that. It just kind of, I'm not a conservative supporter, because there's the difference between them and the liberals isn't really that much. Basically, Canadian political realm is, the Liberals are the far left party. They're not super far left, but they're very far left, especially compared to as recently as, like I said, 10, 15 years ago. Because like I said, people seem to think that the political parties stay the exact same from here until eternity, and that's just not true. So the Liberals are far left. They're not super far left, but they're pretty far left. If you would have told someone as recently as 10 years ago that the Liberals would be this far to the left on some of these issues, even people on the left would call you crazy. Everyone would call you crazy. So the Conservatives are moderates, center left. I wouldn't even consider them center right. I'd say they're center right, center left, to be honest. They're like European conservatives. They're like liberal conservatives, basically. And then you have the PPC, and you do have the NDP, who's another far left party, but they're not really relevant. They only have candidates in about 35-40% of the ridings. You have the Bloc, who's just a Quebec party, so who cares about them? And you have the PPC, who's the principled conservative. The left calls them far right, but they're not really far right. They'll call them Nazis, but they're Nazis that don't want censorship. They don't want they're very odd Nazis. I've heard that they don't want censorship. They want less government regulation, all that kind of stuff. They're kind of Nazis that have done full circle. All of a sudden they're for free speech. They're against gun control. They're for the free market, all that kind of stuff that traditional Nazis were completely against. But we'll just pretend that that's not the case. But what I wanted to get into is that Canada Poli, he is the candidate for the PPC, the guy who runs the channel. I believe he's from Guelph, Ontario. And he does a very good job of talking about Canadian politics because if you listen to the mainstream media, I mean, Canada doesn't really have any very good alternative media outlets. We don't really have the one like the big ones like in the U.S. that do great jobs. We do have them, but a lot of them are still just like propped up by the the CBC and those kind of things. They're not really they're like the Young Turks of the U.S. where they're technically they're alternative media, but I mean they get money from YouTube, so technically they're not. But like I said, if you want to get some good, unbiased, honest news, I mean, this is a great channel to look at because he is a PPC supporter, but he will give the conservatives credit where credit is due. I mean, I don't think there's much of anything to give credit where credit is due to Trudeau and the Liberals. Um, and he does point out the oddity of the media nowadays, and like immigration's the big issue nowadays, at least it should be for everyone, especially if you're on the right, is that if you're against immigration, you're in the majority. I mean, only 6% of Canadians want immigration to be raised to the levels the Liberals are raising it to. The PPC is the only party that wants to cut immigration, and yet the media calls them racist, Nazis, crazy. They're a fringe position, fringe party, but yet the overwhelming majority of Canadians agree with the position. So the mainstream media is twisting, like everything the mainstream media does twists, and they blow it out of proportion. They take things out of context, and if you're tired of that BS, then you got to go watch a channel like this because it's good, honest, unbiased news, and it's what we need in Canada because we really have like none of it. Like the U.S., as bad as the mainstream media is there too, at least they have some good alternative media channels that you can go watch on YouTube or on other alt tech sites. But Canada, we really don't have any of it. So I mean, we have a couple channels, but none that are 500,000, million plus subscriber ones. So if you want a good, honest, unbiased news channel, this is the one to go to. So. And like you say, his channel is actually getting very big. You see these last, he's only got 12,500 subscribers, but he's getting upwards of 5,000 views a video. I know he's got more for other ones, but if you're tired of Trudeau and the CBC and all their biases and BS, then you got to go subscribe to a channel like this, watch the videos. All that is an FU to the establishment. So. Long story short, I'm going to leave it there. If you like the video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe, and go subscribe to the Canada Poli too. So, yeah, that's about it as far as this video goes.